The importance of leaders that I got to discover during my interviews. So, the description for the business leader that I had interviewed, his name is Danny Wirtz. He is a business leader. Not only that, but he does work in the NHL. He is CEO and chairman of the Chicago Blackhawks, which is a hockey team based out of Chicago, Illinois. They are a hockey team in the National Hockey Team, NHL. He works for not only my favorite, but my hometown team, the Chicago Blackhawks. He's worked there for 5.5 years now, since September 1st, 2020, and he still works there to this day. Some greatest achievements is that before he was hired, he did have an internship, and his father was the CEO. Unfortunately, his father, Rocky, did pass away in 2020, but then Danny got promoted to CEO and chairman when he passed away, so that could be most likely his greatest accomplishment to ever happen to him in his career. Being a chairman is in charge of not only building but rebuilding the team. When you get new players, it's not only just building, but rebuilding what you have and rebuilding everything to make that team an actual team. And he decides who plays for the Blackhawks and who doesn't. So he gets kids from different hockey associations, so like the NOJ or the OHL or the AHL. He gets those kids, bring them in. They do have to try out, but if he wants to sign them, they could go on the Blackhawks. And if they don't want him to play for the Blackhawks, they do have a smaller minor team called the Rockford Ice Hogs that they do play in. And another a great achievement that Danny did have is that the Hawks won the Stanley Cup 3 times when he did have an internship. So most people can't say that. Handling a situation, the Wirtz, they own Chicago hockey. They're known for not only the Chicago Blackhawks, but they do own a high school hockey team called Loyola Ramblers. They are well known around the Chicagoland area. They're known for their amazing athleticism and academically. The Hawks did have, hopefully not anymore this year, but they did have bad luck, and they traded some of the best players. A little older, but they traded Patrick Kane to Detroit Red Wings. They traded Jonathan Toews to the Winnipeg Jets. So unfortunately, we do not have those players anymore, and I know some people were upset about that, but there's nothing really you can do because now we're young and we're trying to rebuild. The Wirtz brothers, including Danny, they got hated on because it was their responsibility for how the team performs, and since they did have bad luck, the fan base did not exactly agree with the brothers. Power bases and behavior impact. He mostly makes the foundation of lawful authority, so he does have responsibility inside of his organization, not really outside, since it's the National Hockey League, so it's everyone in particular and not just him. But he does have power inside of his hockey team. He does have experience, as he did have an intern, but his response to behavioral impact when everyone was getting down on him is that he was not only positive with the community and the staff and the fans, but he was responsive to that. He knew how to talk to the fans, and he knew how to talk to the staff to make sure they had trust in him. The mission, vision, and strategy. The mission for the CEO and chairman, like I said, is always to make not only the players happy, but the fan base. In order to have a hockey team, not only do you need players, but you need a fan base. And he was able to not only get that, but he created more of a fan base, signing one of the best players in the league, even though he is young, Connor Bedard. Winning's always a want, not necessarily a need, but since it is a want, we can't make it happen all the time, but we can do stuff like sponsor events and create organizations for not only fans to attend to, but players, so we can get more people to be fans of the Chicago Blackhawks. The vision, unfortunately, is to always win the Stanley Cup. That is every coach's vision, and every CEO is to win the Stanley Cup. That's what you work for the entire season. Like I said, that's the vision of all teams. The strategy is to rebuild and hopefully work together to get to that vision and win the Stanley Cup. Leadership theory. So, transformative leadership theory is the best theory that describes Danny with his leadership style. So not only does he have creative thinking and he motivates his staff with positive energy that enforces them to be better, he always makes a plan and he works towards that plan. He works towards that goal, and that's what makes everything, not only professional teams, but all businesses together, that makes them the most successful. According to a player that was interviewed, his name is Bertuzzi. That's his last name. Everyone calls him Bertuzzi. If you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, you know who he is. He gave the team the confidence that they can achieve anything that they set their minds to, which is always a great mindset, and that Danny put their mindset to a T. It was perfect. Leadership comparison. So strengths is doing good when the company does good. Weaknesses is trying to rebuild. Like I said, everyone has a weakness, and unfortunately, since the Chicago Blackhawks are very young, we do have to rebuild, and it does take years, so unfortunately the fans will have to wait, and that will eat at Danny every day until we get that goal set. But the strength overall, he balances work and life, which is perfect for not only a CEO, but just everybody in general, is just to balance out, the work life, ethic that's happening there. But when it comes to strengths and weaknesses, you have to make sure that your strengths are more effective towards you than your weaknesses, because it will eat at you. Next is leadership lessons. We have positivity, consistency, and accuracy. The first and most critical quality is positivity. Once the leader is positive, everyone else is positive and will have a positive mindset, and that's how you get everyone to have better performance and balance. Next is consistency. That goes along with accuracy, which we'll explain later, but consistency is huge in the National Hockey League, in the NHL. Not only because you need to be consistent with winning and games and the way you play. When you're more consistent, the more you can win, the more you can work together to rebuild. Next is accuracy. Accuracy is for everyone. You want everyone to be accurate. You want everyone to do their job. Unfortunately, not everyone can be accurate all the time, but as long as everyone puts in their effort and tries to be accurate as they can be, that's all leaders are looking for, and that's all teams are looking for in general. Next is the reflection of the interview. I honestly was so honored to talk to Danny because, like I said, he does work for my hometown team. But not only that, but to see his perspective, because as a fan, I only see the perspective of, oh, my team's doing bad. Like, this is so embarrassing. All I see is that perspective, but to get his perspective on the way his team is doing and how they're trying to do stuff, that we can't see as fans. So I compared Danny Wirtz to Billy Daly, who is also a known person in the National Hockey League. They have the same job, but they're not the same. So Danny is a chairman and CEO, so anything he says has to be done. Billy is an influence because he's the overall leader of the NHL. He overlooks the NHL in general, not necessarily Danny's part, but all the teams in general is what he looks over, which is super important. But those are two different types of leaders. You have CEO, and then you have the actual leader. So you have a semi-leader, and then the actual leader of every leader in every organization, which that's so different because not only is that overlooking everything, and that has more stress and more stuff to make sure everyone's happy and satisfied, which obviously everyone's not going to be, but that, like I said, that work-life balance has to stay neutral. I liked hearing both perspectives, just to see the leader of a team versus the leader of every team and everyone in the organization. I think becoming a leader is a lot, and it requires a lot of focus and a lot of positivity, but overall it's something you can develop over time and just to stay neutral. And these are my references for the interview and the slideshow. Thank you.